Well, hello and welcome back to another tutorial about Camunda stuff. This time we will be learning a little bit about how to create a project with a Camunda Platform Run, also known as Little Camboot, a name that is clearly superior and should never be forgotten. This is a kind of platform that's used if you're not interested in embedding the engine in a Java application, or you kind of don't want to use Java at all. You can use any language you like for your business logic. And it's one of the distributions that we have, and it's probably one of my favorites. So who am I? My name is Niall Deehan. I am a developer advocate with Camunda, and I'm joined as always by Jane Lane, my feathered friend. Both of us will be helping answer questions. I will be here for the Camunda orientated parts of this lovely tutorial. Jane Lane is my JavaScript expert, so hopefully we'll both be able to get through this in one piece. We also have a bunch of things we'll be doing. They're all listed here, point after point, but I prefer to list my things in order of state transition, which is why I've created a BPMN process for this. In BPMN, we start with Jane Lane wants to create a Camunda Run project. Easy. Well, what we'll do is we will then actually download and start up the project. I'll explain some bits about Camunda Run, where you can change things, how the project works. We'll also then be building and deploying a process to Camunda Run, and we'll also be adding some more complex things like some complex BPMN symbols and also some Camunda forms to user tasks. Then we'll get into the interesting thing, which is orchestrating services. For this, we're going to be using JavaScript. I'm going to build some external workers, so little JavaScript workers, and those are going to be orchestrated by the process that we build. And then we'll see how that works. And then we'll also be building, we'll also be doing a little advanced stuff like using BPMN error handling in order to show some more complex stuff. So that's what we'll be learning in these tutorials. There's a whole bunch of stuff you'll need, but don't worry, it is very easy to obtain. Below is a link to the GitHub project of everything I'll be building over these tutorials, and in that GitHub is a link to everything that is needed for this tutorial. What you'll need is Java 11 installed, and make sure you don't have at the moment Java 15, 16 are not supported, so make sure you get Java 11, and that's so we can run the platform. We don't actually need to write any Java for this tutorial, but you do need to run the platform. Actually, the platform itself is free and open source, so go download it. Again, link below, and that is for running the BPMN process models. We also have the Camunda modeler for building models, and we're going to need Node.js installed so that we can run some JavaScript and run those workers I talked about earlier. Finally, you'll need some kind of development environment. I'll be using Visual Studio Code. This is just for editing the workers and just having an idea of the project and that sort of thing. So it's up to you what you use though. So hopefully you'll get all that. So go download that now. You'll need all of this stuff before we get started. But there's one other thing that's very necessary. If you've done tutorials of mine before, you'll know that I am a big fan of the Marquis de Lafayette. And I do like using this these tutorials to help him out. Last time we helped him to get involved in overthrowing a monarchy. We're now fast forwarding a couple of decades, and now we're going to help him escape France after the revolution. He didn't make a lot of friends in France, but well, not eventually, but now we're going to build a process to help the Marquis de Lafayette escape to freedom. That is our goal for this tutorial, and let's hope that we can all do that together. So let's get started. As I mentioned, we are going to start with Camunda Run and explaining how the whole thing works. And I've already downloaded it. It is right here, a little zip file. So if you go to camunda.com and the download page, you will download Camunda Run there. It's the first thing. And you'll get this little zip file. So I'm going to right click and unzip it, and I'll talk through what's there. So it unzips into this little guy. It's only about 50 megs. And you have this very easy to start thing. We'll get to this in a second, but if you're using Windows, you want to start with .bat, and if you're using Mac, you want to start with .sh. We're not going to start it just yet because I want to talk through this configuration folder first, because it's kind of important to understand Camunda Run. Most of the engine configurations are in Java, but we've abstracted them into much more accessible stuff in Camunda Run in this distribution. So let's talk through it. If I open this field up, if we start from the bottom, we have two YAML files, one called default and one called production. So the default one is used by default. Clever, isn't it? You know, it's in the name. And the production one is kind of like an example of some settings you may want to use in production. And what they really contain is engine settings and engine parameters. So let's actually just open this up in code, and I'll just show you what some of these things mean. So let's start with default. So if we open this up, it's a YAML file. It's a little bigger now. And I'll just talk through some of the basic settings. You can see here that it's got an admin user. Demo is the username and password. It's also enabled CORS. You have here the data source, which is a H2 in-memory database with a password. And we also have some Spring resources stuff here. The production one, if we open that up, has a lot more stuff. It's got a lot more. It's got security enabled. It's got a bunch of other bits and pieces that you'd want to use in production. And so this is a good starting point if you want to build something a little more production ready. But if you just want to get started, and we'll be using the default. Okay, so let's return back to our folder here. There's some other bits and pieces like this. User lib folder is super useful because if you want to run some kind of custom Java within command run, you can actually add it inside this user lib folder. Right now, what we've added here is the driver for the H2 database. That's the only thing we need for by default. But if you wanted to, you could add a bunch of engine plugins. Maybe you want to add some Spring Beans that you can call, that sort of thing. That can all be done by putting some Java code in the user lib folder, and then the engine will have access to it. We also have this SQL folder. If you point command at a database and the setting auto create schema is set to true, it will use the tables in here to create the its own tables as necessary. It also has upgrade tables as well if you're using the older version. In resources, this is where you would or could put BPMN models, maybe some scripts, maybe command forms, maybe DMN. We won't be using it this way, but if you wanted to deploy things by putting them in this folder, and then when you start up run, it'll look in this folder and then deploy anything in there. We're going to be deploying via the REST API, but if you wanted to, you could also deploy by placing files in this resources folder. Okay, so the last thing to do is go back here to command run. We are going to start this up. Let's go. So what should happen is this starts up. We have here a bunch of things is enabled. We have the REST API, we have the web apps are enabled, and Swagger UI, which I'll talk about later, and it's starting up. Behind the scenes here is actually a Spring Boot application. It's kind of hidden behind the distro. So after a couple of seconds, this will start up, and then we'll be able to actually access the web apps immediately. All right, and it's now started. We know it's now started because it says starting to acquire jobs. You can see right there, that is the bit of login that you're looking for. Once it's started, we can go to our web browser and we can go to localhost 8080, and that then should bring us to the web apps. As the YAML file suggested, the username and password is demo. And we, of course, are very interested in statistics, so I'm going to tick that box. And now we're here, and this is it. So that's it started. The next phase, of course, is building a process and deploying it. So let's do that next.